All right. So, who am I willing to be in order to produce an extraordinary result out of this interaction? I'm willing to be vulnerable, empowering, present, joyous, and grateful. Misha.
Boop, boop. And there's my qualities of being. I am willing to be appreciative, clear, courageous, focused, and present.
Thank you. Anastasia.
I am willing to be gentle, focused, clear, appreciative, and open.
Thank you. Shari. I'm going to
unmute. I'm willing to be focused, gentle, supportive, truthful, and generous.
Great. Thank you. Remy.
I'm willing to be creative, empowering, attentive, focused, and clear.
Thank you. Tyler.
I'm willing to be attentive, courageous, kind, focused, and open.
Thank you. Z.
I'm willing to be clear, compassionate, creative, empowering, and focused.
Thank you. Am I willing to systematically dismantle my structure of knowing?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I willing to be a demand for coaching? Yes.
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 Am I willing to guarantee that whoever coaches me will be successful? Yes.
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 Okie dokie. Well, hi team. Welcome back. Here we are after a week off and our first training session in a little bit. So I am really thrilled. Today we're going to be talking about your story as your mission. And this is one of my favorite parts of the program that I updated this time around because I'm seeing really how central this is to every enrollment effort. And as with many pieces that I'm teaching, it came out of me coaching someone and just kind of looking at what do I know works, not because I know it magically, but because we can all see it working in good enrollment happening anywhere. And there's so frequently story present. So we're going to be talking about what kind of story you want to capture and articulate around your work. So we can just skip the logistics at this point. So today, out of this session, you will understand the structure for thinking about your mission and design the story that you want to share about why you do what you do. And you will know where and how to put this story into practice. So that's today. So I want to just start with an open conversation for a moment. So we can get into the energy of this together. What calls you to be a coach? Let's just hear a little bit from 2 or 3 folks. What calls you to be a coach?
I can start.
Please. What calls you?
So I've been thinking about this a lot, especially the last day.
Yep.
So what I see is I have a lot of experience being supported in therapeutic settings. And what really made a difference for me about coaching was a different level of clarity about what I want to create moving forward. Mm-hmm. And mostly a whole different compassion for myself and for other people as we're all on our hero's journey, or to take that, to put it in my words, more like living the life that's most meaningful to us.
Yes.
And I think like coaching is a place where that is consistently the center of how we're interacting.
Living the life that's most meaningful.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And so you want that for others, that they're living the life that's most meaningful. That's what calls you to it, is that desire.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Who else? There's no right answer to this. There's no right way to put this. Just looking at it. What is it that calls me to be a coach?
This is Anastasia. Sorry for the airport announcements.
Perfect. It's perfect ambiance.
Yeah. um, so what calls me to be a coach is when I'm in a coaching context, I experience a sense of possibility, like almost as if anything can happen. And I can really notice making decisions and taking in complex states of the world or complex information in a very clear, easeful manner.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing work on climate change, climate justice for the last 10 years and being surrounded by other people working on that issue, I saw how much possibility and ease are so critical to doing effective work on the climate crisis and creating a more just world. So I'm a coach to bring that to people dedicated to working on climate change, climate justice.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about some of the challenges you saw in the world that led you to be a coach. Yep. Thanks. So who else?
I'll go.
Please, and then Remy.
I find that I'm called to impact the lives of other men, and I'm finding that I'm effective in doing that in a variety of modalities, including teaching and writing. But that the way that has been the most impactful is by showing up in their lives in a way that's deeply empowering and transformational for them.
Okay.
That it's not that, yeah. So I'm called to be a coach because I've found that it's the way that I can most deeply realize my mission.
Good. Perfect. Yep. That there's lots of different modes of support, and this is one that really speaks to you, that you've seen be impactful.
Yes.
Yep. Good. Remy?
I think the big one for me is just that there are all these amazing humans out there with hopes and dreams and desire to make a difference and all this potential. And I think sometimes they're not going for it as much as they could be with support and some skills. And I just, I love that. And I've seen it in my own life so clearly transformed by coaching, just all these really tangible moments where I decided to do something that was meaningful and that, intuitively I wanted to do and knew to do. And then, and I went for it instead of not going for it. And it changed my life in really tangible ways. And I think in ways that for me are really, they're the things that I'll look back on in my life and see as really meaningful moments. And I want that for people both because I think, I want them to look back and see that they've had a meaningful life. And I believe those are the kind of things that create that. And also because I see how much it contributes to the people around them, whatever the work is they're doing. When people are showing up, really present and enlivened by what they're doing and with a clear vision and a sense of possibility that it radiates to people around them. And I just think that that's the kind of world I want to be in.
Oh, good. I'm glad this is recorded. You can come back and listen to what you just said.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Just straight from your heart. And that's our task today, is your mission is already in your heart, and the story you want to tell about your mission is already in your heart. And our task today is to raise it to the surface in a way that you can consistently articulate it the way it already is in your heart. So, so let's look at this a little further then. So you hear people talk a lot about mission statement. If an organization might have a mission statement, sometimes people talk about your personal mission statement. And and the game we're playing right now, that isn't necessarily the most useful angle into it, but mission story is something that I found to be very useful in practice. And the difference between having your mission story be present in your enrollment conversations and not is a world of difference. It's one thing to sit and talk about the outcomes. It's another thing to sit and talk about the benefits. You know, people always talk about benefits, not features, right? It's a common conversation. That's good, do that. And one of the things that really needs to be present in addition to that, in addition to results, in addition to benefits, is, okay, well, what's the story of why this person does what they do? Because people get enrolled into your mission much more than I don't want to say much more, I don't want to compare it like that, but in addition to being enrolled into what they're going to get out of it, part of them knowing that you're the right person for them is that there's a clear values alignment. And the way for there to be clear values alignment isn't for you to talk about your values and say, well, I value compassion and empowerment and support and, vulnerability. It's to tell the story of what you see in the world that leads you to do what you do. So that's what you're going to be discovering today. Is this clear what I'm saying? Great. So I love Rilke. And this is, will someone read this? Z, will you read this for us?
I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete this last one, but I give myself to it.
So when I read this, I see mission. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete this last one, but I give myself to it. And so that's the kind of depth. When we're talking about mission, there's real depth present in it. And one way we can visualize this is, first there's you, and then there's your clients that you're serving. And sometimes if we're not really present to the depth of mission, we can think that that's where mission lives. It's like, oh, I'm doing my work in the world. This is my service. So I'm serving my clients, and that's my mission, is serving my clients. This is the scope of my impact. But I propose to you that is not so. That we can really hold it as, just like Remy, you were saying, is then they kind of, the way they're being in the world impacts others, and so on in these widening circles. And that mission is really here. That when you have a mission for a possibility you see in the world, let's say even if you served 100 people a year, your mission isn't really about just serving those 100 people a year. It's about serving them in such a way that they're ripples out in the world in the direction of the possibility that you want for the world. And so I invite us all to hold it this way, to hold mission with this level of whatever I'm up to as a coach is happening way beyond just the people who hire me as a coach, or even the people who are reading my, content, like my posts, my Facebook posts, or whatever other ways you're sharing. It's happening way beyond that. So mission story is a term I'm going to use throughout this training. I'm going to use the word mission or mission story interchangeably, but I'm going to call it mission story as a way to remind us that it's a particular way of thinking about mission. And your mission story is the story of what calls you to serve as a coach. And it's both the impact you envision for individuals you serve and the impact you envision for the wider world. It lives on both those levels. And I'm going to show you how to construct it in a way that it spans both those levels. So let's imagine two versions of the, pretend you can't see the bottom half of this slide. Let's imagine two versions of, fix slide 12, animations. Two versions of the answer to the question, what do you do? The first version is the elevator pitch version. You've all heard about an elevator pitch, right? It needs to be short enough that you could say it if you were in the elevator with someone and they ask you, what do you do? And the common way that might sound is, I support change makers who are burning out to bring their gifts fully into the world, so the world's thriving. And within, one sentence, one or two sentences, someone can know if you're the right person for them, or if they know somebody who might want to work with you. That's good. It's good because it's short. And the version I'm giving you is even like a decent version of a well-constructed elevator pitch. Now, let's try the story version. Someone says to me, what do you do? And I say, well, I work with change makers because I see so many change makers out there who are struggling, and they're burning out, they're exhausted. And I just so know that it doesn't have to be this way, because when they're struggling, all that creativity inside them is pent up, and the world is missing out on all those creative ideas they have. They're working hard, but they're not actually getting a lot done. And so part of what I'm really dedicated to as a coach is supporting people to, even if 20% more of their creative ideas were to get out into the world and produce results, just imagine the difference that could make. What a huge difference that would make in the world. Now, which one is more powerful? The second one. Yeah. Why is the second one more powerful? Just your own observations. What makes the second one more powerful for you?
There's more of a personal relation to it.
Yep.
And it also, it's kind of holographic, but it's like, if we could start here, here's the bigger picture.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, here's the bigger picture first. Yep. Who else? What do you notice makes it more powerful?
It just feels a lot more authentic and focusing on what you love about it instead of what others need to know about it to buy in.
Yeah, so I love that. What you love about it. So there's a you in the picture in addition.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say, Jeremy. It's the story version makes it seem like, okay, there's you and there's me and there's you, and we're having this conversation. But in the first version, it's just me. It's just about, this is what I do, what you do. In the second version, it's like, you and I are in this together.
Yep.
I am frame setting a world in which you and I are both existing.
Yep.
You have a stake in this.
Yep. Oh, well put. We are in this together is like a great tagline for Mission Story and the way we're talking about it here. We're in this together. Yep. Anyone else?
I was just going to say it's more specific. I mean, obviously it's longer, but it's also just more concrete. Like this whole 20, I like the 20% because it's like, oh yeah, like I can get behind that number, I'm like, yeah, even if 20%, of the ideas that these creative people had got into the world that wouldn't have gotten into the world because they worked with you. Like suddenly I have this concrete vision of people going out and doing things that are, and their success being supported by, Jeremy Blanchard's work. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's sweet.
Yep.
Yep. So I think, it's the way that the way the storifying it makes it, really clear and concrete, I think is a big part.
Yep. Great. Shari, let's get your mute unmute figured out. So I'm unmuting you on your phone.
Great. Hi.
Hi. Did you have something you were going to say? You texted.
Yeah, I was gonna. Well, on this, I'll just add that one of the things I find more powerful about it is that it leaves me beginning to imagine, this sense of hope and wow, what are those huge differences?
Yes.
That are possible. It leaves me looking forward to discovering what that could be.
Got it. So you're interested in what more there could be. You're kind of into the story and you want to learn more.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Do you have a mute button on? If you're logged into Zoom right now, do you just tap on the screen once?
Let's see. Okay.
Great.
Okay. I have a little thing that says join audio.
Oh,
Let's see more.
guess that's not going to work. Yeah, because you would have to.
No.
I'll just mute you and unmute you if you want to just
Okay.
look fervently at me when you want to do that. Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Great. So that's the heart of this. That's why this is important. Is this, experientially we can tell one of these is more powerful, and even though it's longer, it was still pretty brief, right? That was 30 seconds, no more than 45 seconds. I hope, unless my perception of time and while I'm talking is just completely distorted. Misha, were you gonna say something? Oh, okay, great. Great. So let's look at the format then. So that's what mission is and mission story is, and then we're going to look at how do we construct one that really resonates with people. So there are two different dimensions of it. There's one aspect that's about opportunity and the challenge that's present. And we're going to look at how opportunity and challenge intersect at the individual level and the world level. So we can put it in this nice grid format. Nice grid. So I'm going to introduce us to this step by step, okay? So we've got, along the top, we've got individual and world. Along the side, we've got challenge and opportunity. So first, we're going to look at the challenge at the individual level. And the question we can look at here is, what challenges do I see people experiencing that call me to serve? Now, you won't need to write all these down unless you like doing that for your note-taking process, because I'm going to actually have us all copy a worksheet in a moment, and we're all going to answer these together. So this is going to be, we're going to workshop this together. You're going to have time to begin answering each of these on this call. So first, I'll introduce it. In a moment, we'll actually answer them. So, when I asked you at the beginning of this call, what calls you to be a coach, many of you already were speaking to this. Well, I see people struggling in this way, or I experienced this struggle in this way, and I know others do. And so this is also where, to the extent that you've clarified your ideal client, you might include that here. So, for Misha, it's like working with men. I've seen men experience this kind of challenge. For me, it was change makers. And if you haven't clarified your ideal client, it's okay. You can say, you can even just say people here for now. So that's number one. Is that clear? Good. Great. Number two, I'm calling heartbreak, because it's a challenge that you see in the world, and it often comes as kind of like what breaks your heart about something in the world. That's my way of talking about it. You can find your own way of talking about it if that doesn't land for you as natural. But the question here is, what is the world missing out on because people are experiencing this challenge? What is the world missing out on? Because I say a lot of what happens in coaching isn't about something going wrong, but it's often about something being missed out on. It's not like a problem, but it's a missed opportunity. And when we put it in this blue italics, that's kind of like if we were to put it into a sentence format, it could sound like that sentence. So this is more like a sentence prompt to help you get going with your answer. So it breaks my heart to see this because, so in my example it would be, going back to number one, I've seen change makers experience so much burnout. They're working 80-hour weeks on whatever their project is, and they're exhausted and they're not being very effective. And it breaks my heart because they're working a lot and working a lot and working a lot, but they're not actually being very effective in anything they're doing because they're working on so many things. And they're so stressed out with all the things they're working on. And they're not actually coming up with the creative ideas needed to really produce the kind of breakthroughs we want to see in the world. So that would be an example for number two. Number three, we go on to the individual opportunity. So the question here is, what possibilities do I see for individuals to turn this around? So one way you can say this is, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. You know, I've seen people, the way I could say it is, as a coach, I'm dedicated to people really learning where to put their attention that's going to make the biggest difference and be most meaningful for them, and do it with some ease along the way, so that they don't have to be so exhausted, that they can actually do less work in the right areas and produce the outcomes that matter to them and to the world. And 4 is service. And the question here is, what impact is important for me to be making in the world regarding all this? And why is it important to me? You know, what's the result I want to see in the world? So to finish that off, it's like, because when changemakers are bringing their focused creative work forward instead of their exhausted scrambled work, the number of ideas that they can come forward. I mean, imagine if even 20% more of those ideas they were taking action on in the world, instead of remaining dormant or lost in this tornado of frantic work. And that's what I'm really dedicated to as a coach. Boom. So let's have a conversation about this for a minute. What do you, what questions do you have about this format that we're looking at, or any observations you have?
I have a question about length. Because in your example, it sounds like at the end it's 1 or 2 sentences, but I could see us having like multiple answers for each of these quadrants.
Of course.
Kind of like how in depth you want us to.
Yeah, so there's 2 steps of this. One, there's generating it, which is what we're going to spend time doing on this call. And then once you've generated it and clarified it, you'll then apply it. And applying it, you can apply it in a lot of different settings with a lot of different depth and length. So for here, you might write a couple bullet points for each, and it's going to be a process of refining it. So for this first step, in a little bit, just kind of get out whatever you see the answer is. Don't worry too much about editing it as you're writing, just write. And, I'd say a complete on this would be that you've got them down, each of these down to about 1 or 2 sentences, so that you know the distilled version of it. You could expand on it if you were asked to, but having the distilled version is very useful, so that this whole thing could happen in 1 to 2 minutes tops.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, great question. Any other questions or observations about this? Does this interest you?
Yes, I think it's great.
Good. Does it make sense? Is this clear, what we're talking about? Okay, good. Good. So let's look at some examples. Why does it say click here? Let's find out why it says click here. I wrote the slides. You'd think I'd know. No, we're taking you to a written example. But even before we take you to the written example, let me say what it is for the boot camp. Well, actually, yeah, you can follow along here. So I'm going to give you an example of how this would sound for the boot camp. So for me, it absolutely breaks my heart to see so many coaches out there who are struggling, who have 1 or 2 clients, and they really want to have a whole ton of clients. They want to be coaching full-time or close to it, because when that's happening, there's so much potential transformation they could be bringing to the world, but they're not. I'm on 2. It's just the idea of what could happen. And, you know, one of the things I've seen over supporting coaches for as long as I have is that none of us were born knowing how to coach, and none of us were born knowing how to enroll, is what that should say. You know, we weren't born with business skills, but it's a skill we can learn. And that's one of the things I'm dedicated to as a coach, because I've seen that when coaches learn the business side of the equation, which is really kind of like half of the game, they can really get out there and be transforming people's lives so that the people they're serving are out there making the difference that they really want to be making. And you know, as a coach, that you got to be a part of that. So observations, what, you know, as you hear me say this, you may have heard me talk about the boot camp in that way prior. And now you kind of can see how it's fitting into this format. What stands out to you about what I just said for the boot camp? What worked about it?
I'm just appreciating how the what is about the individual and the why is about the world. You know, in both cases, there's like a because or so that. And I think it's just cool because it's, you know, the what is the concrete part, right? It's like, oh, this is what I do with people. And then the why is like, why do we care? You know, why do you care? Why do I care? And I just love that that's the big picture. Anyway, just seeing it that way with the example a little bit differently.
Yeah, that's a great observation. Yep. Great. Who else? What do you notice about this example?
I guess this is kind of similar to what Remy just said, but it seems like the specificity under the individual in 1 and 3 is like what we're seeing in physical reality. It's like very practical. It's something that's like clear, right? And the world is like more of the visionary impact, like the meaning around it.
Yeah.
And there's a clear bridge, so it actually feels possible by the time you finish saying it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, because if you were to just say the things you want for the world, that's good too, and that's enough to get someone interested and like, oh yeah, I want that for the world too. But it's not clear what that has to do with your coaching. Yep. Well, let's look at another example. Some of you know our dear friend Molly McLeod. And I actually need to stop this share and restart it so that I share audio. Share computer sound. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. So I'm going to play hers, and then we're going to kind of look at it for just a moment in the quadrants.
You know,
Can you hear that?
there's a lot of reasons I believe that, you know, art and creativity are important in the world. And I love the quote, you know, the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And I also think that, you know, in you know, challenging times like we live in now, I think that, you know, art and creativity are so critical to reminding us of, you know, our humanity and you know, bringing a little bit more, you know, joy and hope and possibility into the world. You know, that's how we, you know, creatively envision a future that we all want to live in, is by using our imagination and our creativity. And, you know, so I think it's critically important that people who, you know, have a creative spark of something in their heart, which I think is almost everybody in the world, that they are contributing that to the world. And, you know, get past whatever is holding them back from making, you know, what is in their heart to make and sharing it with the world.
What do you notice about that one?
I got goosebumps. It was so moving.
What was moving for you about it? What quality, you know, what was it doing well?
Yeah, did a good job of like getting me excited about like, yeah, the world could be a better place. Like, and people are so great.
Yep. Who else? Thanks, Christine.
It revealed a vision of a world,
Mm-hmm.
an underlying vision, even if it wasn't fully articulated. There was a vision there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm appreciating the quote. Just grounded things in a different way than it would have been without the quote.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know if she said who it was. It was just like people say, but somehow presenting it that way was like really compelling.
Yep. Good. Yep. And you'll notice she didn't obviously do it in this particular order, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you'll see as we go through this, you don't need to do it in this exact order, 1, 2, 3, 4. But she did hit on all the different quadrants. So we're going to design it in this very linear way. And later in this training, we'll talk about how to deliver this. And one aspect of that is you don't need to deliver it in this sort of mechanical ABCD kind of way. You'll find more natural ways to say it. And that'll be part of your practice after this training, is pairing up with your buddy to hop on the phone to practice saying it organically. But we'll get to practice in a little bit.
One other thing I just saw, Jeremy, I don't think Molly talked about herself at all. You know, anyway, just appreciating that as well. Or her practice or her business or really almost anything. I mean, it was just the touch, you know, but it was great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, good observation. Yep. So I'm going to do this and then do this again because the way Zoom works, this will be better. Okay, good. So let's look at designing your mission story. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to take about 3 minutes on each quadrant to just get some basic answers down. So start by, if you're able to, make a copy. Make a copy of the worksheet, and I'm going to paste it in the chat. And if you're not able to make a copy of the worksheet right now, you can just write it on a piece of paper. That's easier for you. Oops. That is the mission story worksheet. And that link will take you to a page that says make a copy of it, and then it will be living in your Google Drive. And again, if you don't want to do it that way and you just want to do it on paper, just do it on paper. Great. Because you'll see each of the prompts up on the screen. And I'll be reading them aloud. So give me a thumbs up for those of you who are making a copy of it. I want to make sure you got it, so I know we're ready to move on. Remy, good. Okay, good. So let's go through this then. Let's go through this. So the way this is going to work is we're going to have 3 minutes for each one. So just get your initial answers down to each question. And we're just going to stay here while you do that. So go ahead. The first question is, what challenges do I see people experiencing that call me to serve? So take 3 minutes and write down. It could be one answer, it could be a couple bullet points worth of answers, sentence or two, ultimately, about in response to that. 3 minutes, go for it. And feel free to chat any questions you might have.
Sorry, Jeremy, just to clarify, we're doing this in that first box where it says answer here.
Correct, yeah. This
Thanks.
is number 1. Take about a minute more. Thirty more seconds. And wrapping up wherever you're at, so I want to hear from a couple folks. What did you write? What challenges do I see people experiencing, including the group as it is relevant? So I'm going to hear from, starting with two folks.
I'll do it.
Go for it.
Hi, I'm back.
Tyler.
Challenge: professionals and entrepreneurs who are struggling with work-life balance and/or are feeling disheartened about their careers, thinking of throwing in the towel or changing jobs.
Oh, good. This is perfect. So say them again more slowly.
Okay. Professionals and entrepreneurs who are struggling with work-life balance and/or are feeling disheartened about their careers, thinking of throwing in the towel and changing jobs.
Oh, I got it. I thought changing jobs was one of the challenges, but it's as a result of that, they're thinking about changing jobs.
They're either, for entrepreneurs, either looking at closing down shop and going back to work for someone else, or if they're not happy with the career they have, looking to go work at a different place instead of getting re-engaged where they're at.
Got it. Yeah, got it. So when you say it like there are some entrepreneurs who just want to throw in the towel, or professionals who just want to throw in the towel and just, they're
I thought I was going to be here and I'm anywhere below here. So I'm like, I'm done trying this. I'm going to go try something else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Perfect. Thanks. So one more person.
I can go.
Go for it.
Yeah, I've seen just so many people who have something they're really passionate about outside of their work, whether that's rock climbing or artistic pursuits or creative pursuits or other sports, really struggle to devote the time and energy to it that they believe it deserves, and struggle to see how it fits into their like longer term career trajectory and what they want out of their life. Especially I think folks in their 20s and 30s as, sort of bump up against practical things like raising families and career track jobs. And yeah, that's the challenge.
Well put. That's great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good. I love the way you're already delivering it very naturally, as if you were talking to someone, which is just bonus points.
Yeah. I've been saying it a lot in referral calls, almost like that. So
yeah. Well, that's great. So you're already implementing some of this. This is perfect. So you can use this to refine it. So let's now workshop number 2, or give you some chance to design number 2. So again, take 3 minutes and heartbreak. What is the world missing out on because people are experiencing this challenge and not getting support to move beyond the challenge? And you could start your sentence with, it breaks my heart because ... Or you can start it however works for you. Go for it. Take about 1 more minute. All right, beginning to wrap up where you're at. Great. So I want to hear from 2 folks on this. What did you come to? What did you come to? What is the world missing out on because people are experiencing this challenge? Don't all speak up at once.
I can share.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Z. Okay, it breaks my heart because so many people sit looking at screens all day and we're becoming really disembodied. And in the Me Too era, we have so much fear and shame and blame around the body and sex. And we really need to learn how to touch, love, move, and play with each other. So we're missing out on the wisdom and creativity of these facilitators.
Love it. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Who else?
I'll go.
Great.
It breaks my heart because we lose the contributions of men who have gifts to give but are hobbled by or dangerous because of their lack of coherence. In turn, this leaves men to inflict so much pain on non-men and to lose so much trust.
Great. So we're missing out on their gifts. And then there's also something in there about dangerous and pain. Yeah, so there's a way to talk about those things without stirring up monkey mind that we'll want to kind of coach you on as we move forward in this, because we're going to do some coaching on that, because that could stir up so much monkey mind. And yet there's something important about, really important about what you're talking about that we want to get at. Okay, so that's perfect. Let's just kind of flag that to come back to, highlight that. So let's do the next one. So possibility. So what possibilities do I see? Number 3, what possibilities do I see for individuals to turn this around? And it might start with, it doesn't have to be that way. People can, boom. You're talking about the outcomes and the possibilities you see for them. So 3 minutes, go for it. Take about 1 more minute. You're doing great. The timer didn't go off. So great. So finish up that. And we're actually, I'm seeing it would be good to not even have you share after this one and just move on to the 4th one. So let's move on to the 4th one. We'll have 3 more minutes to do that one. So for number 4, service. What impact is important to you, important to me, for the world? Why is it important for me? So you might answer both those questions. So one is the result, and you might also, as you're typing the result, it's also, well, why does that matter to me? So you bring yourself into it in that way. So what impact is important for me, and why is it important? Z asked me to share my previous example for number 4. So my example would be change makers, when they are bringing their creativity fully forward in the world, that imagine even 20% more of their ideas coming forward. And just imagine what a difference that would make. We'd be so much closer to the world that we envision if even 20% more of those ideas were happening. So take about 1 more minute, and we'll wrap it up. Okay, great. So you've got something written for all 4 of these now, yes? Good. So that's a perfect start. And we're going to take some time to workshop this. So I want to, we're going to have probably about 10 minutes to workshop a couple. And I want to have, I'm going to kind of workshop one person's, and as we're workshopping theirs, you're looking at yours, at what you're learning, what changes you might make. So who wants to have theirs workshopped right now? Who's willing? Who's willing?
So willing.
All right, great. Thank you, Remy. So, so let's do this. I'm going to go back a slide. And just, if you want to share it in sort of well-formed story format, absolutely go for it. But really all you need to share it as is just kind of the bottom line for each of these 4. So go for it. Just kind of share each one with us.
Great. So the challenge I see, I don't know what the group is exactly, but people who, have that thing that they're super passionate about and might be outside of their work, whether it's an athletic or artistic hobby or passion activity, who struggle to make the time and energy for it that it really deserves in their life, that they'd love to be giving it.
Yep.
And it breaks my heart because just when people aren't, feeding that thing they're passionate about, life feels kind of like a slog, and I think the world is missing out on their passion. I sort of kept realizing that our friend Morgan, who's another coach, keeps reminding me that this quote exists by Howard Thurman that I've been meaning to look into the background of. But he says, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and do it, because the world needs people who have come alive."
Yep.
And I was reminded of that when I was writing this piece. So I think the world misses out on people who feel really enlivened by what they're doing at a day-to-day level.
Got it.
The possibility I see is, for people to pursue those activities, like whatever that thing is for them, and that could even be like a different work, environment, or could be an entrepreneurial venture. But a lot of people I work with, it's artists and athletes. And I think when they're pursuing it, they just experience a lot more joy.
Go back to my 3 real quick. Say it again. What's the possibility?
The possibility is for people to put the time and energy into that thing that they feel like it really deserves. So I guess to go for their, whatever, be pursuing, be pursuing and excelling, progressing at the thing that, you know, that they have that passion for, whatever it is.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, good. Keep going. Number 4.
Yeah. And I'll just say one way I thought about framing 3, and I've sort of gone back and forth about, is like, to the degree that the passion hobby is not your work, it's like work-life balance, but I don't really love that term. And so anyway, I go back and forth about it.
Yeah.
And the impact for the world is just that I think people are showing up when they're feeding that passion. They show up to everything in their life, their work, their family, their relationships, and really present. And I think that just radiates a lot of possibility and inspires people around them. And, you know, just imagining the possibilities if everyone in the world had someone in their life that showed up that way, you know, that was really spending their days doing things that enliven them. I just think that allows other people to see possibility for themselves as well.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Great. Are there any of these 4 that you particularly want some support on?
Yeah, I mean, I think number 1, I don't feel like I have a clearly defined group. Like when I talk to people about this, it often does, like, you know, they're like, oh yeah, I know people who have things they want to be devoting time and energy to, but it's still like so broad, you know?
It is.
And yeah.
Yep. And we're going to have a whole training about ideal client, which is why I kind of give you the option to not be specific here.
Yep.
Because it's okay to not be specific, either because we haven't looked at it, or just because it's the phase in your business that you're in where you need not be that specific yet. And so I liked the way you said it when I asked you, when we were going through the steps and I asked you it, and you kind of said it as you would, as if you were talking to someone. You said people, you know, whether they're artists, rock climbers, athletes, whatever, who have, you know, a passion that they want to be devoting their time to.
Yeah.
And I think for now, yeah, at some point in your business, you'll want to clarify this more, as we've talked about. But for now, that's a pretty good stand-in.
Yeah.
People can see themselves in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I look at my clients now, a lot of them fit that description. So I think something does resonate for people.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So, so number 1 is life is a slog, and, you know, they're not, you know, going for their passion.
Number 2.
What's that?
Oh, number 2, or I thought you said number 1, but is that number 2 or number 1?
Oh, well, I heard
the challenge is, gotcha. Yeah, I see.
Life is a slog.
Got it. Thank you.
And then number 2 is the world misses out on people who are, you know, doing their, say number 2 again.
Yeah, that's when I mentioned the Howard Thurman quote, but the way I normally just say it if I'm saying it is
here, let's do that. Because I'm experimenting with different ways to look at this with you. So let's say we're on a referral call, and I'm like, so Remy, what's this whole coaching thing? Which is one place where your mission is super relevant. So Remy, what's this whole coaching thing? What's up about all this?
Yeah. Do you want me to answer by like bringing it to this specifically, or just answer however I would?
Yeah, and we'll answer with all 4 of these in whatever way is comes out of your mouth as conversationally.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for asking, Jeremy. You know, one of the ways I got into coaching was just when I was leaving grad school and trying to decide what really made sense for me and how rock climbing especially fit into my life. And I've seen that a lot of the people I end up working with are asking similar questions. And they often have this passion activity, you know, something like whether it's rock climbing for me, or they're musicians, they're artists, some of them are activists or writers. They have something outside of their work that they're really passionate about and want to be devoting more time and energy to. And I just see how clearly, especially in our 20s and 30s, you know, where like stage of life I'm in, a lot of, we can experience a lot of pressure to, get career track jobs and raise a family, and all this stuff comes up, and that stuff can sort of take a back seat. But I've found that when people are really given a chance to look and see, they see how important that thing is in their life, and are able to devote the time and energy to it that it deserves. And when they're feeding that passion, they just show up to everything in their life, their work, their relationships, with so much more energy and joy. And I think the world needs more people who are, showing up inspired and radiating possibility like that. So what I do as a coach, is support people to do that, to give the time and energy to that thing that it really deserves.
Great. Perfect. So in a moment, I'm going to look to what the group notices about that. And I want to start. One thing I notice about what you just did is that when it comes from your heart like that, like this activity is a way to just make sure we're clear on the key points we want to hit on. But when it's delivered from your heart, you naturally find the ways that make it enrolling. You don't need to workshop so much like, oh, I need to workshop number 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I need to wordsmith 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's more like I need to know what 1, 2, 3, and 4 are about. And then now let me say it. I've identified 1, 2, 3, and 4. But now let me share what I see from seeing 1, 2, 3, and 4. Because that's what you just did. And you said great words, and you may say it differently next time. Like that you said, feeding that passion. The 2 things were really good. You said under the challenge, individual challenge, you said their passion takes a back seat, which is just a brilliant way of putting it. Oh, it's like it hits you right in the heart, because many people can relate to that. And then number 3, you said feeding that passion. So you're setting up this beautiful picture.
Cool.
I think the area that I'd invite you to do some work on, not even necessarily right now, but in your buddy call, when you're working on this, is the world side of it. So one of the things that's happening is because your group is so broadly defined, the impact on the world is pretty vague. Like, it's what you're saying is true. Like, oh yeah, the more people could be contributing more good stuff in the world, and that ripples out. But it's not very enrolling. Like, the quote makes it enrolling. So that's one good thing. The quote helps. And I think as you clarify your ideal client, which you're approaching the time where it's can be good for you to do that in your business in particular, the answer for how it will affect the world will just become so obvious rather than general.
Cool. Thank you. That's really helpful.
So group, any thoughts from Remy, particularly anything you see that worked well in what he did? Any reflections? Go for it.
Well, Remy started out by sharing something personal. And I know some of the others were like, oh, wow, Molly didn't even talk about herself. But it worked for me in this moment when Remy was like, I used to have this thing I was passionate about, and I didn't know how to make it the center of my life. And that's part of why you do what you do. And that worked really well.
Cool. Thanks, Z.
I love that you're pointing to that, Z. I think it's one thing to consider doing at any point is including yourself in it, including part of your story. I didn't build it into the 1, 2, 3, 4 process, but it really is a part of it. There's some aspect of, along the way, woven throughout one of these 4 is part of your story that led you to this. It's part of what makes it personal and enrolling. It's not a mandatory part, but it's usually pretty good. So who else? What else worked about what Remy shared?
I identify with the problem that he was talking about. It was accessible.
Okay.
it wasn't so specific or so general that I couldn't see it in my own life or see it in people I knew.
Got it. Good. Good. Yep. Me too. Good. Well, let's workshop one more then. So who else wants to hop in?
I'll go. I've been working on it.
Please go for it. So let's take what we just tried with Remy, and let's do it. You've got the 4 in front of you, and just say it as if we were in a conversationally. Okay. So we're on a referral call, and I'm like, Misha, tell me why you do this whole coaching thing. What's this about for you?
Yeah, I like that. So I perceive that a world in which men are, for a lot of reasons, are challenged to have a challenge navigating sex and love in a way that's in line with their values. Mm-hmm. And this just breaks my heart, because men who lack coherence around sex and love tend to hurt people, and they lose the trust and confidence that they need to contribute their gifts to the world. But I don't believe that it has to be this way. Men are totally capable of connecting to their own values and living their best lives in coherence around everything, including sex and love. And I want to create a world in which joyful, brilliant men are contributing their gifts to the world and living in coherence with their values around sex and love, and that these men are the norm. And this is important to me because I believe that this is how our entire society evolves.
Mm-hmm. Great. I love that these men are the norm. That's great. That's the vision that everything hinges on.
Yes.
Yep.
I know. I like that part too. It's my favorite part, but I don't know.
Good. Yeah. Yep. And talking about question for you: when you say men are challenged to live in line with their values around sex and love, that's good, and we could even leave it at that. But I want to look at it a little more. What challenges them? What makes it difficult for them at a personal level, not a global level? What makes it personal for them? Yeah.
I think many men are challenged by what society has told them is important, and that often creates a deep sense of contradiction. That in between juggling career and family and dealing with stress and prioritizing self-care or all the other kind of coaching stuff, that this is one area where they often find themselves not living in coherence with their values, but that society has basically said that that's okay so long as you're making money.
Mm-hmm. Good. So here's one way you can get at it, and this is good coaching for everyone. You can choose one common example rather than talking about the category. So you can be concrete rather than general. So to use what you just said, it could sound like, I see a lot of men struggling to live in alignment with their values. For example, they're prioritizing money over relationships. Their focus becomes on money rather than the relationships they care about. Earning money, whatever.
Yeah, for example, prioritizing their careers over the relationships they really care about.
Yeah, I see so many, you could even just cut it to that. I see so many men who are prioritizing their career over the relationships that matter most to them in their life. And it breaks my heart to see that, because, and then you go on from there to 2. You see the difference? Now, tell me what you see.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I see it. I do.
What's the hesitation?
I guess that I get bogged down in a structure of knowing I have that unless like we like that this is an area that our society is still kind of okay with men being out of coherence around. Not just our society, but many societies. But like Michael Jackson, John F. Kennedy, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, all of them were deeply problematic around sex and love. But we don't really care so long as they achieve a lot.
I got it.
And then deep into that heartbreak thing.
I got it. So that, though, is irrelevant for your game. That is an interesting structure of knowing about what you think society is thinking about this. The question is not what is society thinking about this. The question is, are there men out there who would really love to be prioritizing their relationships? Because this is down to the heart of it for you, which is, am I trying to get people to do things that I think they don't want to do? Like, I think society isn't valuing this, or not enough people are valuing this, and I'm going to cajole them, convince them otherwise that they really should be prioritizing relationships. Or am I interested in working with men who want to prioritize their relationships and have not yet discovered the way to? They want it, they're interested in it, but it seems like it's not going to work, or they don't know how yet. They're worried about it. You see the difference?
Oh, I see the difference. I'm just genuinely thinking about whether or not I care more about the first than the second.
Okay. Well,
and we don't need to go into that right now. But
no, we're not going to go into it right now, but keep looking, okay? Because it's going to be, once you have a breakthrough on this, you're going to have such an easier time with enrollment, because you've either got to decide, you've got to come to a point where you decide, am I working with people who want to work with me or not? With people who have an interest in a vision for something they're going for, and they want support to get there, or am I trying to affect a change among people who are not yet interested in it, or don't yet have a vision for this particular outcome that I want them to have a vision for? So I want you to look at that, okay? Because it's going to make your life a lot easier when you.
Okay. That is totally real.
Yep. Because I know you have a see the question. Have you read Malcolm Gladwell, Tipping Point?
Yeah.
So this is like tipping point. Are you because you're just keep describing laggards, people at the end of the adoption curve. Or you describe society, which means everyone at every point in the adoption curve, and you get to decide, do you want to work with everybody in every point in the adoption curve, or do you want to work with people one step past early adopters, who have an interest in the thing you want, and that you affect the larger change you want in society by working with the people who are interested, who are showing up, but don't yet have the support to get where they want to go. Okay?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome. This is a super useful conversation.
It's supportive. It's just what I need right now.
Yeah, I know. Good. Good. So, good. So as you clarify that, the other parts, I just want to give a couple other bits of feedback. Don't use the word coherence, because that's a wonky word inside our coaching model, okay? You can use the word alignment. Alignment is a word people will understand. Living in alignment with your values, if you're going to say that.
Yeah.
And 3 needs a little work. We're not going to get into it right now for time, but look a little more at 3 and look at is the breakthrough. Again, just like number 1, see what the way is to make it concrete. So you said 3 is like, oh, men connecting with their values or living their values. That's a concept. But how might you make it concrete? Like, okay, men, for example, men really being loving men in the relationships in their life in addition to earning money, or whatever the concrete example or examples are that you really matter to you. Then the story comes alive. Oops, my video keeps messing up.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes. This is great.
Great, thanks. That's good coaching for everybody, because I bet everyone could look at their 1 and 3 and look for ways to make it more concrete. So good.
Solid. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So let me talk for a minute about how to use your mission, and then I'm going to give you your assignment, and then we're going to wrap up. So there are so many places to use your mission. Here are some. One is if someone asks you one of the most common questions: what do you do, what is coaching, or who do you work with? 3 of the most common questions. You can answer with your mission story. And the value in this is that you can then answer their question. So you start with your mission story as the preface to their question so that the answer becomes meaningful. When someone says, what is coaching? They don't want to just know what is coaching. They want to know what is coaching to you. They were just wanting to learn more. And this is the way to really have them learn more. And then you can follow it up with, oh, and I work with this kind of change maker, or I work with, coaching is, it'll flow on very naturally as an add-on after you share the mission story. Referral calls. This is all in the guide, by the way, so you'll be able to reference this, or it's actually in the one-page summary of this training. All these places to use it. But one place is during question number 2, when you're beginning to connect what their ideas about how to serve their community with what you do as a coach, you'll naturally not just start to talk about what you do as a coach, but you can fill that in with, yeah, I do this because ... and fill in a 15 to 30 second version of your mission story. Discovery calls. Right after you declare a fit in the voyage and invitation section, I've added a new point in here. Actually, I think it was already there. Declare the fit and your mission. So if you printed this off, you might want to print it again and share. I see it would be a great fit for us to work together. And I see it would be a great fit for us to work together because I'm so dedicated to supporting change makers to not have to burn out anymore. And that's why I do what I do, because I know that when change makers are not burning out, they're contributing their gifts fully to the world, and we get to the world we want to see so much more quickly with so much more ease and joy along the way. And then I move into voyage and benefits. And here are 2, first, here's some of the ways I think this is going to be a fit for you. So I'm weaving together that mission into presenting what I offer. And finally, marketing. You can use your mission to help inform your marketing language. You can put it on there literally. You can weave what you're saying throughout all the points in your marketing materials. For you, Z, you could stop working on any other ideal client stuff and just put this literally as you wrote it onto your page and call it done, okay? So let me give you your assignment. Your assignment is to complete this worksheet, which you've pretty much already done, but any revisions you want to do to it, and have a call with your buddy. Schedule a call. You might even do it right now. You might text your buddy right after this call to schedule it, to have a call with them to practice sharing your mission story. And there's instructions for the call on the one-page summary for this, or rather on the worksheet document that you already have. And there's some suggestions for how to go about supporting each other. So that's it. These are our upcoming calls. We're back next week with coaching on your, is that next week? Yeah, next week. We're going to be coaching, and one of the things that we'll emphasize in that coaching call is practicing referral conversations. So be ready to role play and bring any questions you have about referral conversations. We'll also have time for general coaching topics if you wish, okay? So great work, everybody. Thank you so much. Come off mute, say bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Great work.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.